Welcome back to Black Popcorn. Today we're going to examine whether black people are suckers when it comes to their high levels, high percentages of voting for the Democratic Party. To say it in that way is kind of offensive to some people. Like, I ain't no sucker, and and a lot of people who are black and Democrats do vote democratically for Democrats, and it don't mean you're a sucker, but in general, is that how they look at us? Because they give very little, and the support that we give them is huge. So are we suckers? Let's look into it.
Stephen A. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. I love watching him. He's got great entertainment skills, which is very important. People watch him. You know, a lot of these Democrats I watch, I say they have no chance. I've been pretty good at picking people and picking candidates, and I will tell you, I'd love to see him run.
Here's the president saying Stephen A. Smith should run for president. You know why Stephen A. is popular? It's because he's not partisan. He's a student of the game. I welcome my friend once again to help me explain the disconnect between what my last guest was arguing Democrats should be about and what we see from their current players. How do you explain it?
It was hard listening to him, to be quite honest with you. I respect the former governor of Virginia, Mr. McCullough. I mean, I know he did, in a lot of people's eyes, he did a great job. And I'm certainly not here to impugn his record, his resume, his reputation in any way. I just felt that what he was articulating was almost as if he was living in a cocoon or something, where you were talking about what you feel and what you would do, but you weren't talking about what the Democratic Party had been doing. And for quite some time, I might add, it wasn't just 2020, it wasn't just 2024 that they were doing some of the things that they were doing, where they were ignoring inflation, they were ignoring the price of goods, they were ignoring the quality of life that a vast majority of American citizens were experiencing in this country. But you're talking about violence in the streets and what have you, and people getting arrested and getting out of jail the same day. You're talking about sanctuary cities and people and homelessness ravaging our nation, and a lot of things that they weren't paying attention to. There were a plethora of things that the Democratic Party was ignoring because they were stuck in their own thing, basically trying to guilt you into supporting them. When I listen to him, I'm listening to a man who said, look at my record, look at what worked for us, look at the quote-unquote Bill Clinton model, although as black Americans, we should always have some issue with Bill Clinton because of the crime bill, you know, and how that led to mass incarceration or assisted in continuing mass incarceration of African-American men in particular, and we understand that, but there were a lot of things that he did good. Obviously, he departed from office with a surplus. He focused on the economy through the help of Newt Gingrich and the right in Congress and what have you. They worked together and they got things done, and they showed us the importance of compromise and going across the aisle and doing what was in the best interest of American citizens by showing there's a willingness to compromise, to work together, and to make sure that you're putting more money in people's pockets and you're assisting in keeping the streets safe. Now, when you're doing those two things, and that's the kind of thing that Governor McCullough was talking about, I get you, I understand that. That's not what we were hearing in 2024. So when I'm abhorring or lamenting the state of affairs within the Democratic Party, I'm basically talking about what they were focusing on. They may be doing things on the state and local level and may deserve an abundance of credit for it, but that's not the message that we were receiving. And you know why we weren't receiving that message? Because they didn't think they could.
That we ain't gonna give them that. That ain't happening. Stephen A. And I agree with everything he just said completely. He said it very eloquently. But we're not gonna go so far as to, and that's the one problem that I have sometimes, is that he spit facts and then he's trying to walk it back or soften the blow. And we ain't gonna allow him to do that on this show, but only because it's not the truth. They might be kicking ass on the local level. No, on the local level, they're really pushing black people out. Directly, black people being pushed out, being harmed, being lack of better word, lack of opportunities in every way. So no, hell no. We can't just let them get off the hook and walk back what you said. What you said at first was on point. And that's where we need to be going from, and not walking back in any way, not even a little half of a baby step, because that's what the problem is. We keep excusing that negligent behavior. If we was in a relationship with the Democratic Party, we'd swear up and down they're cheating on us. And honestly, they are. We have to give them 100%. We got to give them everything and put it all in that, all our eggs in that basket. But what do they give us? The far left wing, the minority group, the wing nuts of the party, who only just want what is right. But man, he said that well, and I ain't giving him opportunity to walk it back. I don't know where he going with the rest of this, but we ain't walking that back.
Sell it to us. They didn't think that that would be good enough. They wanted to make sure, oh, we're going to point to racism. We're going to guilt you into voting for us. We're not going to talk about the things that we're doing positively. We're going to talk about what the other side is doing negatively to engage in fear mongering to help you through fear factor go our way instead of theirs. And it didn't work this time. And to be quite honest with you, even though I might not like some of the things I'm seeing from the Trump administration thus far, the bottom line is I'm glad it didn't work, because I think for the longest time.
In a nutshell, that's it. He just encapsulated what a lot of people feel, and a lot of people who haven't even admitted it yet. It's like, you know what? I'm glad them Democrats didn't win. But who wants to cheer for uncertainty? Who wants to cheer for what Trump may bring in? Who wants to cheer for somebody who has such of a negative veil covering them? And the Democratic Party effectively messaging against him. I get it. I get it. But we have to be braver than that and be ready to press on and try and go out on a ledge, go out into dark territories and see what's going on out there and do some exploration and not just keep doing what's comfortable, because it makes us look like suckers. In my own personal opinion, I believe that some black voters, like some white voters and other voters, and people who deal in politics, and if you vote, you're dealing in politics, are suckers because they're being told by their union or by their wife or by if, and it's okay to discuss your voting opportunities, but to really let someone else make up your mind for you, to really let someone else form your opinion, especially if you're black, even if that other person is black, you have to have a clear understanding of what's going on in this country. And it changes, and it's changing rapidly. And they're not changing the way they treat us or what they're doing for us. It's still staying the same. So whenever I get a brother who, and in these times, gets on there and just has a show that just brings out this topic, we got to holler, and we all got to get our heads together and start realizing, instead of being angry or mad at how someone else thinks or what someone else's opinion is, the best thing in the world that you could do is just do something positive. Unless that person is basically saying all black people should go and commit suicide, we all have different paths that we're going to take to hopefully get to where it is we're trying to go. But if everybody was on that same road, it would get overcrowded, and that probably wouldn't work out too well. But we ain't got that problem. The problem we have is we have many roads and they all go to the same place. We just don't have a lot of people who are open-minded enough to accept the fact that they don't have the answer. They don't have the only answer. What is going on in them ain't that unique, and what's going on in other people isn't that unique. I'm sorry. It is what it is, and we need to learn to live and let live when it comes to our own kind, and not be so quick to discredit or ridicule another black guy. But then when the Democratic Party comes on the scene and gives us things that make even less sense than any of us are saying in some cases, and then we okay with it, we roll with it. But Stephen A ain't no hero of mine, though. As a sports caster, I don't like him. But since he's been delving into politics, I like listening to him because it's another black voice out there. And at first, it was very difficult to adjust listening to him because he's a black man and a black voice with an opinion that differs in some ways than my own. And I guess we just got that naturally in us, where my ears perk up. You begin to in an unconscious way resist what he's saying, but then to listen to it and not agree with it is different than resisting it. So I've learned to disagree and listen to what people are saying and not agree with it or to agree with it, but in a more positive way, as opposed to trying to oppose people and overthink what they're, to make my explanation make more sense than what their reasoning. That's their life and that's their ideal and that's their thought process. And all you can do is add information to it. And that information could shape the way they think. It might not mean very much to them, or they might appreciate it as a nice gesture on your part to inform them on something that maybe they didn't know about, or maybe they didn't know about it in the way you know about it. But in the end, we just need to all get on one of them roads so we can start moving in the right direction. Because some people ain't on none of them roads, and that's a problem. And just tearing down what others think and feel and believe. Because I have done it. I've done it. Thinking negatively about some brother who out there talking his on mine and going like, oh, but that is not necessary, because I don't have to support it. And I'm even glad I was able to listen to it and that I had the opportunity to hear it, because it at least gave me that exposure. And what I do with it is up to me. I prefer to have more information than less. I don't want people shutting me out on information. Oh, you don't need to hear that. Or you don't want to hear that. That ain't good for you. That ain't what you want to hear. Nah, that's okay. My mother used to talk like that, I think, in terms of in a protective sense. And probably most of our mothers do. But don't do that. You don't want that. And I'm like, what you telling me I don't want? I think I do. And she'd be like, I'd see it. And you'd be like, oh, okay. But then you get to that point where, you do outgrow that level of protection that she has for you. And you get to make your own decisions and make some calls. And that's where we at right now with this political process, you guys. We got to start standing up and not do what our parents told us to do, and not do what the Democratic Party keeps repeating. They keep repeating the same thing over and over and over to us, and time's moving on, and it's moving on without us.
Black Americans have played the role of suckers to the Democratic Party. They've guilted us into voting for them, making us feel as if we're going to be ostracized, creating division within our own communities or what have you to get our vote, instead of saying to us, hey, this is what we will do for you, and it will work better than what they're offering. That's why it was a bit difficult for me to listen to him. Not because he was wrong with what he was saying. I'm talking about Governor McCullough here. I'm talking about what he talked about, and what he alluded to is the kind of message we should be craving in this day and age. But unfortunately, there are not enough folks, particularly on the left, capable of giving it to us straight. They think they have to engage in bullying and fear-mongering in order to get us to.
Wow, that's how I feel. And I think I believe in my heart that the Democrats who get into that type of conversation or that kind of environment, it could be in your workplace, it could be just somebody you don't talk to that normally, and you get into a conversation with them and you find yourself being angered by what they're saying, because you're thinking, they're black like me. How can they think like that? How can they think? Because that's the beauty of it, the beauty of individual life, that you get to make decisions, and that you hopefully get to a point in yours where it don't bother you so bad when somebody else thinks a certain way, because you have strong convictions and passion, and so do they. And if you learn more about them and the walk that they've walked and why they feel the way they do about a particular topic that you feel a complete different way about, and you begin to learn, even though you might come to the end of the research and realize, you know what? I disagree with him still. And you might. But I tell you what, you'll be more informed. You'll have a better understanding and more respect for that person, as opposed to just discarding or discounting what he said. And that's what we need to start being more aware of. Trying to grow ourselves. And then you'll find how much more alike we are, as opposed to shutting things down and shutting things out and discounting what other people believe or think.
See their way of thinking.
You know, it was an interesting moment in the town hall. You were talking to President Trump. He was trying to make the point to you that he got more black votes than Republicans normally get. And he got more than he did the time before, and there was a little bit of confusion. He was talking about like Harlem and riots and stuff like that. That's what people picked up on. But what I wanted to ask you about is he really does seem to believe that there is a moment here for Republicans to grab not just Latinos. People misunderstand Latinos as a demographic, even more so than they misunderstand the black community.
That's not true. And I hate when they keep trying to compare us to the Latinos or to the Asians or to anybody else. We vote high Democrat numbers, solid, election after election after election after election. Nobody else does that. The Hispanic vote can go 60-40, 54-62. You know, it can go in different ways. The black vote, we are heavily locked to that Democratic Party. Hispanic vote can be separated among Democrats and Republicans, and it usually is. But the numbers that we vote in, and for him to act like that the black vote is that hard to, when it comes down to it, no matter why, the end result is what really matters. And the end result is that we vote in way too higher numbers for the Democrats for what we're getting out of that. If we were split down the middle, then the Democrats and the Republicans would see that we're in play and say, hey, we got to get one of them sides over here, you know, and what would cut that in half, be about 16, 17 million votes. I think someone would want that, but we can't do that. We're more united than that, which is a really good thing if we were thinking more like-minded and not the way the Democratic Party has manipulated us into thinking, into supporting them before we support our own life, our own livelihoods, to allow our communities to go into decline, and then for them to pile more on top of it in the immigration issue that they're willing to create and house here in this country, and at our expense. So I don't know. Do they really have our best interests at heart? Heck no. Of course they don't. But we should. And no matter what their agenda is and what they do, they should know that they don't have us locked in 100% and that we're going to negotiate on these things. And if you're going to pile us in with a bunch of immigrants who are going to make our living conditions less than they were, then we're going to have to fight you and call you out for what you are. And that's what's important, to just speak facts and quit pretending that we're in lockstep mode, which it seems like we are in lockstep with the Democrats, but they're not in lockstep with us.
As if every black is the same, but that there's an opportunity that black voters don't have to belong to Democrats. Do you believe that?
I do believe that. It's going to take more convincing, but I believe that he's touching on something that can't be ignored. I heard him loud and clear talking about the blacks and how the blacks love him so much, and historically black colleges and university. I mean, it was, you know, listening to him, it was funny and uncomfortable all rolled up into one. But it doesn't mean that we negate recognizing the validity of his point. Remember when he was campaigning in 2015, 2016, he basically looked at black America and said, what do you have to lose? He was basically pointing to the Democratic Party and how...
That's when I don't think Donald Trump thought he was going to win. He was surprised. And I was too. Shit, I think a whole lot of people were. But when he really actually won, he probably was like, God damn. He was just throwing things out. What do you got to lose? And, you know, it didn't work, but it was, here we are in 2025 still talking about it. So it did stick. Work. The black vote wasn't that great for him then. The black vote ain't that great for him now. Nor should it be. But we should be more open to listening to a different idea on different subjects. And understand that some things that may harm the Democratic Party as a group, especially coming from a party that they're losing to, doesn't necessarily harm us the same way, if at all in some cases. But we also have to get out there and be active and do some things to guide the way things are going to end up. We can't just sit back and think that if we vote for the Democratic Party like we've been doing, they'll take it from here. I was on hold the other day with somebody. I can't remember who it was helping me with. It might have been my internet again. No, it wasn't my internet. I got that fixed. It hasn't been my internet. So I'm always on customer service lines. Hell, anyway, it might have been the VA because the VA is horrible now too, and it always, has a bad reputation. Is sinking back into that. They really were more responsive. They did a lot. And I don't want to knock them that bad. And I do understand that we're going through the layoffs and stuff. So there, we do feel it. It's going to be some changes. Getting a portion of your health care from there, you'll see a difference for sure, unfortunately. But we got to, realize that we got to all suffer.
So long. So many promises have been made, but ultimately what you're doing is trying to encourage us to lean on a party and lean on government. And oftentimes I use Major League Baseball as an analogy to highlight this, because with baseball, even though they've made inroads and they work diligently to improve the black populace within its sport.
You're trying to say they ain't as racist as they used to be.
One of the things that I've done, Chris, over the years in talking about Major League Baseball is I've said to people, unlike the NBA where you got 1 year out of high school and you can go pro, unlike college football where you can play 2 years or so, 3 years, and then you go to play professional football. In Major League Baseball, you can get picked up as a teenager, you can get picked up later. But it's AA, AAA, etc. that you got to go through, and then you hope that somebody recognizes your talents and are willing to, materialize that into something beneficial for you. But it involves more trusting of the system. And that's not something black Americans are inclined to do in any system. We don't like to trust the system because
that's why I can't believe we trust the Democrats the way we do. What is their secret? What is it that because they're a part of the system that we don't trust, but it's like that's a blind spot. Like we don't see that part though. We see the rest of the system doing us wrong and stomping us out, and the criminality in the police departments and the way they treat us compared to others. And we just don't see that the Democrats are a part of it. We just see them as being just over there, but they wouldn't do anything to harm us. That's weird, huh?
the system has hurt us as a community. I just looked at the stat involving the poverty rate in the United States of America. Do you know that from 1965 to 1973, the poverty rate had gone from about 17.3% to about 11.2%, Chris? But since 1973, it's fluctuated between 11 and 15%. Since 1973. In other words, it hasn't changed.
Exactly. If you're on the bottom then, you're on the bottom now. Which is why I don't understand why we keep being fooled into believing that our lives have gotten better because some of us have better jobs or better homes. Spread that out. Do you realize that we had entire communities where the real estate is going over $1 million easily in California, and where are the people who was able to pass that on to their descendants? Where are the people, the businesses that should have been passed on from our grandparents? None of that. None of that. Each time we get to start over, each time, and we are getting better at it, but it's still starting from zero. Still starting from zero. And if we can accept that and understand that, then we can get beyond it.
How many times do I tell you, as my brother from another mother, that guess what? When white folks catch a cold, black folks catch pneumonia. It's always worse for us. So Trump comes along and he says, this is what the situation is. No matter what they're telling you, guess what? Your situation doesn't seem to change. The poverty rate doesn't seem to change. Education and its troubles doesn't seem to change, which is why you got the whole charter school things and vouchers and all of that stuff. Crime in the streets doesn't change, okay? The economy as it pertains to how it affects you, it doesn't change. No matter where you turn, no matter where you look, there's always somebody doing better off than you guys, no matter what they say, no matter how much they ask you to depend on them. And then when we go to the Democrats and we say, look, these are the facts. What do you have to say about that? We know about the New Deal. We know what Lyndon B. Johnson did. We know about Civil Rights, Voting Rights Act, okay? We know about our Fair Housing Act. We know about all of these things. But as you look over the last 30, 40, 50 years, what's your new message? What do you have?
They don't have one. They're actually ready to turn the page. And that was basically the last message we got from the person at the top of the Democratic ticket. We're ready to turn the page. And that's really unfortunate. They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to deal with it. They've treaded water with this problem for a few decades, and now they're ready to just turn the page.
To say it never changes. That's them. They don't care about you. They're racist, etc., etc. Even if it were true, and I'm not here to say it's true in
It is. It's true.
every case because I don't fall for that nonsense. The fact remains, at some point you're going to say, you know what? That's letting you off the hook. And then with this latest stuff, with the whole woke culture, cancel culture, transgender issues, and all of this other stuff, you got to remember, along the way, you forgot about us. And why? Because you know you have our vote. Because
They didn't forget about us. They never forgot about us. They just ignore us on purpose. It's intentional. It's almost where they have to do things to not do things for us. It's so damn intentional. They even have to replace us in their basic fight, and it has to be for immigrants, because if it wasn't, then who else is down there at the bottom? Oh, us. And they ain't willing to put that fight forward. So yeah, it's gonna be the illegal immigrants. And if it wasn't them, it'd be somebody else. On and on and on and on again, but never us. It's never gonna be our turn. Not with the Democratic Party. Not in this United States.
that's been the case since the mid-'60s. The GOP knows for the most part they don't. And as a result, Black Americans are the one disenfranchised group in the United States of America. Some black people have risen up and said, enough of this nonsense. We might as well try something new, because how is this working for us? That's how we look at it. That's how a lot of us are looking at it. And that's why our eyes are opening. And as somebody who talked to a lot of black athletes, a lot of black folks, before he ever began running for president, I told you that about Trump. He kind of knows this because it's the kind of message he received, which I believe played a role in encouraging him to run back in 2015, 2016.
I see where you're coming at this from. It's a very intelligent perspective. He's certainly manifesting it. And, you know, on the culture wars thing, you know, Dave Chappelle said it very well also. Yeah, he was trying to get himself out of a hole of making jokes that people didn't like. But he said, at the end of the day, maybe I make fun of you because I'm jealous.
And that's a damn shame. And I wonder about that sometime. Do I even say things about illegal immigrants or LGBTQ people that might be inappropriate, or they might take the wrong way, or maybe it's a little bit too harsh or over the top for what I may have been talking about? But in some cases, it might be a bit of jealousy. It might be a bit of, well, what about us? Or you know, I know it might sound repetitive to someone who isn't black or who doesn't have the same understanding or same life story that I have, but it's important to me. And I believe that it's being discarded whenever other people are being introduced before, you know, you take care of the customer that was in line first. You know, that's how I feel about it. You can't let people come into the country, whether, you know, you accept them as illegal immigrants or citizens, and continue to cut in line in front of us, or at least be equal and qualify for everything we do. It does something to you upstairs. And I believe either you continue to fight or you accept it. There's no other way to go. And this is just my natural response, you know, to fight, to talk about it, to discuss it, to get myself more informed and to inform others on how I can help them to just look at our lives differently, and we'll respond differently. We won't allow the Democratic Party to continue to drive the bus. We vote, and then that's it. We go sit down, and, you know, we might not even turn the news on and check up on them and see how they're doing. But they reach out to us when it's time for that vote. That's when you start getting mail in your mailbox and things hanging on your door and people wanting to put yard signs up, because it's time for you to come out and give that vote. They don't come back after that until they need it again.
About how much recognition and how much attention the transgender community has gotten, and the blacks are still fighting for that level of recognition and cultural currency. It was an interesting point, and I take yours as well. We are in a period of change. The question is, who will seize the mantle of having the better idea? That's who's going to win, because everybody is anxious for better right now. Steve?
That's unfortunate. because it's a bunch of bad ideas going on out there from both sides.
Stephen A., thank you. I smell what you're cooking, and I appreciate you, Chef.
Como is a weirdo. Yeah, but no, really, I do believe that we absolutely have to do it for ourselves. And we can vote for Democrats and we can vote for Republicans, and we should change our votes depending on what counties and district and states we live in. Because when you get on different levels, some of these candidates are not with the national politics or in lockstep with them. And you can benefit from a Republican candidate on a local level. Hell, I'm living in a city and I had a Republican mayor for the whole time I've been here and didn't know it, only because I live in a majority Hispanic, and it's kind of mixed up here, but a majority Hispanic city, and I just thought it was a Democratic mayor, and she's black. So I'm like, wow, okay. So we got a black Republican as our mayor, and as a result of that, it just means that everything ain't everything. You know, things can be different, and she has a different thought process. And in the beginning, I remember when I first found out, opposing her on some points. And I still don't agree with her on all points, but I do understand that she's been able to maintain her position as a African American, black, one of us, as the mayor of a major city in Southern California, and without having a majority black population underneath her. That's saying something. And I wish her good luck and hope it can continue. But we don't usually enjoy that. You know, usually our black politicians have to be in concentrated black areas. And this is very new. This is very new for our politicians to be able to have communities that support them and trust and believe in them. It's just unfortunate when we get caught up in some of the politics that are going on, and you know, you end up being indicted and caught up in the politic game that destroys you and inhibits your ability to help your people, which is why you went there in the first place, to help. Isn't that right? Like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we see you on the next Black Popcorn.